female, male. Well, anyway, there's a fire. Even if someone thinks that you're transgender, they're not going to say something. It's very unlikely. For me, I just would look like a massive tent. I would look like Homer Simpson in that episode where he wears that big floral dress thing. Welcome to today's episode. We're talking about being a trans woman in Japan. A lot of you have requested this and I've been happy to oblige. So without further ado, let's get straight into it, shall we? So for the most part, being transgender in Japan so far hasn't really given us any major issues. Like legally, we got married before we came, which was something we did on purpose so that we didn't have any huge legal issues. Other than that, like just getting misgendered a couple times, which I'll talk about in a second, so stick around for those gory details. But I think it's been mostly okay. Like I had a few work friends when I was working in Japan before I quit, as you all know. And I don't think many of them knew until I told them, which was kind of sweet because they were very nice about it all. And my husband still sees them because he was at the same place. But mostly I think Japan is a very harmonious and very peaceful country, and is intended to be as such. So it's kind of like even if someone thinks that you're transgender, they're not going to say something. It's very unlikely that someone is going to actively say something to you. And obviously hate crimes happen, but discrimination happens, I would say, just in a different way to the UK and the West. It's much more subtle. It's contracts not being renewed. It's not hate crimes in the loo, you know? The only thing I will say, in case someone's watching this from an LGBTQI plus perspective and wants to learn about Japan, they don't, at this point of filming and releasing, acknowledge same-sex marriages yet. So for me, if I hadn't had my gender recognition certificate issued in the UK and then got married to my husband with the certificate, they wouldn't have acknowledged our marriage, and therefore there'd be a whole bunch of other legal stuff that we had to kind of sort out. So whether you're a gay couple or just non-conforming, non-heteronormative, or transgender, you haven't got your certificate right yet, it can have an effect legally, which is sad to say, but hopefully times will change very soon. But at the point of filming, that's the situation. I think I've had so much coffee, I'm warping in and out. One thing I will say about Japanese society that has made it easier as a trans woman is that you can dress a lot more feminine, and there are a lot more options within fashion in Japanese culture that allows you to express that femininity. I mean, I recently interviewed Gemma May, the non-binary Lolita fashionista, who kindly came on my channel, and that's their whole image, that you can push the boundaries of femininity, specifically with your kind of outfits and your fashion. And there are elements of how that's made it easier, but then there's also the kind of double-edged sword there. I do have a specific body type, and certain clothes and etc. work for me better, so it's hard to always fit within the same category of what's feminine here in Japan, as well as dressing to my body type. I have broad shoulders, I'm very tall. I'm also just even a Western person, a British woman, so I'm generally, my frame is larger anyway, not necessarily disproportionate to other UK, other white people in the UK, but generally Japan, the Japanese women are more petite over an average, so generally I have to work out my body type anyway, and I think that would be the same for a cis woman trying to wear Japanese female clothes. And sizing is a nightmare for anyone, let alone a trans woman. I'm pushing 6 foot, and I dress well to cover up things about myself that I want to hide in that sense. But yeah, that can be kind of tricky. It also means that I can't just chuck on a massive hoodie and run to the shop in my husband's clothes just because it's easier, because there's much more chance of not being quite perceived as the right gender. One thing I am promising myself to do is to actively try and buy more feminine clothes that I enjoy, and play around with some colours and try more skirts and do some more kind of fun things in fashion that I think would only be possible here in Japan. Really playing with kind of hyper femininity that I have always loved and always wanted to experiment in. So yeah, it can be tricky to find the exact right outfit, but also there are different social norms about what people wear. So for example, in the UK, like hot pants, like really high up, like thigh pants, or like Daisy Dukes, I think they're called, are like a choice. Like people wear them, but they're considered not the most conservative options in your wardrobe. Whereas in Japan, like getting your thighs and legs out is like completely acceptable compared to like shoulders and like upper chest is like a lot more socially uncommon for girls to like show that. And you'll even see in summer like undertops with a shirt over the top, or like an underdress and then an overdress like covering sleeves and stuff quite often. But for me, like sometimes I like can play with my shoulder to like bring out a feminine element. Like my goddess look is the like pink t-shirt. Check it out if you haven't seen it. And I'm not as confident to get my like legs out, even though I have got a pair of Daisy Dukes. I sometimes wear them, but like I have to be like really confident that week. It doesn't feel necessarily that like the style of fashion in Japan necessarily suits my like particular needs. Another thing as well is like showing your body shape in Japan is a little less common as well. Whereas obviously I depend on that quite heavily to show my femininity, but I don't want to come across too out there, I guess. So that's been a really tricky thing. Like a lot of Japanese women wear like flat, big baggy shirts and like fashionable, and they look amazing and they can do that. But for me, I just would look like a massive tent. I would look like Homer Simpson in that episode where he wears that big floral dress thing. And also like a lot of things aren't big enough to necessarily like cover me in that fashionable way. So then I'm just wearing a big top. So that is a bit of a struggle. Like I can't just walk around in a nice tight dress like I would in the UK. And just seeing that feminine shape, I think just helps people's, like the surrounding people just like kind of know, they put you in a box for better or for worse. And in a sense of not being misgendered, that really helps me. Okay, well, the moment you've all been waiting for. I am going to talk about the 2 episodes in which I got misgendered here in Japan. So, as many of you will know, I moved to Japan with my husband in March now, about 3 or 4 months ago. And I've been misgendered since then a total number of 2 times. And yes, obviously, granted, that's not like a major thing. But I didn't really expect or understand really what would happen in Japan with regards to being misgendered. And so these 2 times were both also not as bad as they have been compared to in the UK. So let's get into it. I would say I'm spilling the tea, but I'm more kind of brewing the coffee. I hope that will do. They also happened in succession with each other, like with a space of like 2 weeks in between. And that was kind of the worst part because it knocked my confidence like twice. So the first time I was actually working part-time in a restaurant, which I'm no longer doing because your girl is making money from YouTube finally and is focusing on that. Thank you to her wonderfully supportive husband. But I was working in a restaurant and there was a group of like 20 elderly Japanese people in the like 60s, 70s, 80s. And they all came in at once, and I was at the top. I was at like the front of the restaurant, and I was in charge of like putting them in their seats. And they were like, "Oh my god, a white girl is serving us in this restaurant, love." But they were just more worried about the fact that I was like white, Caucasian. And so I seated them, and I thought everything was fine. And then as soon as I sat down, I heard one of the one of them say to like also like her friends though, so like not even at me. Obviously it was in Japanese, so it was kind of like maybe she won't understand, but she just was like "dansei ka jousei ka wakaranai," which means like, "Oh, I'm not sure if this person is male or female." And then I heard it, and obviously I understood Japanese. I had to take their order in Japanese. I had to be like "jousei desu, mochiron," like of course I am female, thank you so much, and like laugh it off. But like it really upset me, and I think because of the uniform in the restaurant as well, I had to have my hair up, and I was wearing a uniform which wasn't necessarily that flattering. I choose clothes that like suit my body type usually, and I was not allowed such luxuries. So I kind of consider that to be like I was at least androgynous to them, which isn't the worst situation, but by no means is it the best. And episode number 2 was actually in my house. We had a kind of prank fire alarm that was raised in our kind of apartment building, and so I had to go downstairs, and I was like in my pajamas, like I wasn't like dressed properly, and I just like threw a hoodie on, and it was like fine, we worked out it was a prank. But then when I got back to my room, we found out that like who it was, and it was someone that had you know, wasn't quite mentally like that healthy, and so they had done it, and they were excused for those reasons, of course. But so that person actually ended up knocking at my door and was like, if there's a fire, you have to leave. And I had to be like, oh, okay, no worries, we're okay, thank you for letting me know. And then they did the same thing. They were like, 男性、女性、とにかく火事です, which was like, just as a phrase, really funny. It was like female, male. Well, anyway, there's a fire, which was hilarious because it wasn't a fire. So again, I had to just be like, doesn't really matter, does it? Like, there's a fire, surely you should be worrying about that. But there wasn't a fire. I will guarantee there was no fire. So that was, I think, like within a week of the other time. So like, bear in mind, like I haven't been misgendered since moving here. I didn't really get misgendered that much in the UK later in my transition anyway. So like, I must have just been having a bad week. I must have just been not doing my makeup enough. Bear in mind, both times I had no makeup on and I had my hair up and I wasn't wearing very nice clothes. So, okay, excused, I guess. Still, not the most fun I've ever had, I'm not gonna lie. Luckily, my husband was lovely and he looked after me. So, I'm gonna break down why I think I got misgendered, some of the factors, and yeah, let's get into it. So, definitely one thing that I've noticed here in the summer in Japan is the heat. The heat is a lot hotter than the UK, and this has meant that like wearing makeup and stuff like that is much more uncomfortable. That goes without saying, and I'm sure there are other countries with a similar humidity and heat that trans people have experienced this from the beginning of their transition, but for me it's just something new. And but on top of that, like when I'm feeling kind of just not myself and feeling not great, I can just chuck on a hoodie and pop to the shop if I have to, or, you know, go out with a mask on and my hair up and just like a hoodie. But in the heat, it's just so much less comfortable to do that. So it forced me to have to kind of go out when I'm less comfortable, without makeup on, without my favourite outfit on. I think maybe that's been an element to it. Because yeah, I transitioned 8 years ago and I'm happy with how I look. But there are still things I do to make sure that I'm, you know, extra comfortable and I'm passing how I like to pass. But as a result of getting misgendered those couple times, like it wasn't a huge deal. I've been through a lot worse, but like it did kind of make me want to stay in a little bit, and that was something I had to make sure I was just tackling actively. Like I think that anyone that has really taken misgendering to heart will have experienced this, but like, you know, it can make you want to stay indoors. It can make, you know, my husband's great. He knows that him popping to the shop is far less effort than me because I have to worry about my hair and how I look and everything. But yeah, it can be easy to rely on that as well. I think it's something that I know I have to force myself to proactively push against, because if I don't, then I'll fall into just some bad habits. Like, and I'd like to avoid that. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to jump away for a second. I'm going to show you a little clip about my other stuff, and then we're going to jump straight back into the video. So don't go anywhere and enjoy. Thank you so much. Hello everyone, and thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you haven't already, please do subscribe, like and comment. And if you really like this content, please do make your way over to my Patreon. For just £2 you can join and get access to a whole bunch of extra content, all of my previous archive videos. Or for the £8 tier, you'll get access to even more bonus footage, some special stuff that I released only to those tier patrons. You can get, like, for example, some Q&A stuff with me, learn more about me, some bonus content. And then for £20 a month, you can also get like live one-to-one chats, live chats, a whole bunch of personal stuff. But yeah, please do head over there if you can, and thank you so much for watching today. I love you all so much. Have a wonderful day. I'll see you soon. Bye. Welcome back to everyone that stuck around, and if you did, well done you. I love you very much. a little comment about the Japanese government as well. So I haven't covered it specifically because I'm not quite sure if I can go into much detail, but at the moment as well, there's a lot in the news about the Japanese government they have the equivalent of like the Republican and Democrat, or like Tories and Labour Party, and there's this law that's been put in place that was meant to be about understanding LGBTQI plus people, and it was originally put forward to like reduce the discrimination and stuff like that. And then, as far as I can see from following it in the news in Japan, it's kind of been warped by the equivalent of like the Conservative Party, and they've added like different points that have made it a bit like actually worse than nothing at all, and it's been flipped to be kind of like a discriminatory like piece of legislation. So don't get me wrong, Japan is not perfect, and I'm not claiming it is at all. I think that one benefit of privilege, which I'll talk about in another episode, that I do benefit from this, is that I am a white girl in Japan before I am a trans woman, and it's a lot less likely that I'll be perceived as such. However, I think the chance, if I do get perceived as that, the like effects are far worse, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know, it's hard to explain. Then again though, as I said earlier in the video, I did get misgendered here, but it wasn't quite a misgendering, it was like a kind of questioning of like, are you a boy or a girl kind of vibe. So I haven't experienced quite outright yet like proper TERFs in the toilet yet, and I'm not quite saying I'm scared to. Japan is a little bit less confrontational, like it's far less likely you get someone to say to you like, hey, what are you, show me your genitals, like that's unfortunately something only the West dare do. So yeah, I would say that Japan is better in general, by far, than the UK, but it's not perfect. The government are doing some slimy things, so I'll keep an eye on it. Let me know actually in the comments below if you want me to cover that specifically and go into detail. I'm happy to do so. I just didn't know if there would be the audience for it, but let me know and I'd be happy to do that. I look like Wendy Williams. Dollar peep. Dollar peep. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. It means the absolute world to me. If you haven't already, please do consider subscribing. This is the Wife playlist. I cover this kind of LGBT trans narrative quite often. I also have some news sections, some like leftist video essay stuff, and I also do like reactions and commentary in other playlists, so please check them out and subscribe if you would love to. I also have another channel called Louise in Japan, which is a kind of non-verbal, relaxing channel. It's less like talking and it's more like showing, I would say. So if you want to check that out too, you might really enjoy it if you like today's topic. As I said earlier in this video, I did another entire episode of the Wife playlist about the heartbreak of being misgendered in the trans community. If you want to check it out, I'll chuck some clips in the top left corner at the end plate. Please do have a look because it really helps out my channel when you watch something else of mine. So enjoy, and I hope you have as much of a good time there as you did here. Thank you so much for all of your support. I love you all very much. Have a wonderful day and take care of yourselves. Bye. Because you are beautiful, I can tell, just because you're watching this. Hello everyone, today we're talking about why transgender people dislike, if not hate, being misgendered so much.